Hello, everyone. This morning we're going to go through our final exam review. The reason I've chosen to do it on video is so that you can review this later if you'd like more information on the final exam. If you're unclear about everything, you have the video resource to go through. Now, the final exam will be an online exam. It will be similar to what we did for our midterm exam. It will be online. It will be the same website. It will be classmarker.com. I will send connection codes on Sunday night. You can log in anytime on Monday. I recommend not waiting until the last possible second. Because, as we know from the midterm exams, sometimes people can have difficulty. The final exam will be during your regular class time. If Monday your class is at lunchtime, then on Monday your class will begin at noon. If it is on Monday at 10 a.m., your exam will begin at 10 a.m. You will have 50 minutes to complete 100 questions. I do not expect people to complete the test. This is a competitive class, meaning it is not your score that's important. It is your score compared to other students that is key. So this is a competitive class. If you complete all 100 well, most likely you will do very well, because I do not expect many people to do that. But as I said, it's competitive. Your final score is not what is important. It is your score relative to other people that is key. Please, one more time, be careful with logging in. I have used this website for almost 2 years now. Very few people have trouble logging in if they follow my instructions carefully. If they remember their password and remember their email and their login information, you should have no problems. Many people do not remember that. I am not able to help you well for login, because I cannot see what's happening on your computer. So please be aware. You can log in anytime to the website on Monday. You can log in 3 hours before the exam if you'd like. I encourage you to log in early and wait until the test opens. The test will open during your class time. Okay? I will send these instructions to our group chat as well on Kakao, the basic information I've just covered. Our final exam will be chapters 1 through 10, everything we've covered. However, it will focus on chapters 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and the supplementary linear programming work we did. This test will be auto-graded. If you have a problem with one of the answers, or if you're unsure, you can ask me what the correct answer is. However, after final exams are received, there is no subjective marking in this class. None of your grade is based on my opinion. All of the questions have right answers and wrong answers. If you do not receive the grade you want in this class, that is your responsibility. I do not change grades unless a mistake was made mathematically. It is a competitive class. If your grade goes up, other grades go down. So, if you have a problem with the mathematics, let me know. If you have a problem with something else, if you think you deserve a higher score, unless you can justify it mathematically, you will not be getting a higher score. I do not change grades. Hopefully this is clear. All right, I'm now going to cover briefly each of the 10 chapters. It will be brief because there is a lot of information to remember for this exam. Okay, that is your responsibility. If you've been paying attention, if you've been attending all of our classes, if you have been regularly participating, this shouldn't be too difficult. If, however, you have not been doing those things, this exam will be very difficult. Every test will be unique. No two tests will be the same. There will be 100 questions taken from 10 chapters. All will be randomized. All answers will be randomized. All questions will be randomized. There will be a total of almost 400 questions that I will choose from. So statistically, none of you will have the same test unless it is a miracle. So please be aware of that. If you are taking time to help others, you will struggle. There are enough questions that I do not expect you to pass. I do not expect you to finish the test. Please be aware of that. All of the tests will be unique. My test bank is huge. When the computer chooses random questions, there will be no identical tests. You may have some questions similar to others. You might not have any questions similar to another person. Please be aware of that. If you have questions, of course you can contact me. Let's begin. Chapter 1, when we're looking at some things you have to be aware of, creating value. What does that mean? How can you create value? This is information you need to know on your final exam. What are processes? Processes are one of the building blocks of service operations management. What is a process? Why are they important? What are competitive priorities and capabilities? How do competitive priorities govern decision-making in service operations management? This is chapter 1. It will be similar to what we did on our midterm exam. The questions are from a similar test bank, but the test bank has been expanded. You may have a question that was on your midterm exam. You may not. It is completely randomized. Chapter 2, we're looking at process strategy. Process strategy is deciding upon those processes that govern your operation. How involved will customers be? How much resource flexibility will these processes have? What kind of capital intensity? Will they be heavily automated or worker-oriented? If we're optimizing, what are the key questions that guide optimization? How is it being done? Where is it being done? Etc. This information too could very well be on your final exam. Finally, in terms of chapter 2, what is Six Sigma? Why is it important in process operations management, service operations management? Why is it important? If we're talking about defining, measuring, analyzing, improving, and controlling, what does that mean in this context? Chapter 3 is managing quality costs. Managing quality. Cost of quality is a spelling mistake, sorry. Chapter 3 is managing quality. What are the costs of quality? We cannot always be perfect because striving for perfection costs us. We have prevention costs, appraisal costs, internal failure, external failure, ethical failures. What do all these terms mean? Which are damaging? Which are more damaging to us? Which are less damaging? The goals of quality. Basically, we have 4 goals. Number 1, we want to meet specifications, meaning we want to deliver the product or service that we promise to deliver. We have to give value at a price point. If it's a cheap product, we still need to provide value. Even if it's an ultra luxury product, like a Rolls Royce, we still have to provide value. We do it in different ways, but it's still necessary. We need support at a given price point. If I buy something, I expect aftermarket service on it, usually. But at different price points, the level of aftermarket service changes. Finally, psychological impressions. When I'm looking at a product, what are the key points of that product? What am I looking for? How can I meet expectations of my consumers? If I go to McDonald's, maybe I'm looking for a cheap, relatively cheap, convenient, relatively tasty burger. Have I provided that? When people think of my product, how do I ensure that I've met their specifications? Okay? Chapter 4 is planning capacity. Typically, planning capacity is long-term only. When we approach 80% of capacity, we look to expand. But expansion is always systematic. We have to estimate what we can produce. We have to find gaps in productivity, develop alternatives, evaluate alternatives, and choose. When we are expanding, no decision should ever be locked in stone. We always want to consider all of the possibilities available to us. We want to evaluate those possibilities, and finally, at the end, choose. Not choose at the beginning. Chapter 5, and this is the end of the first semester that we reviewed. These will be on the exam, but they'll be less important. Of your 50 questions, this will be approximately 15 to 20, depending on the person. Of the 100 questions, this will be approximately 25 questions. My mistake. So chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 will be 25 of your 100 questions. Not necessarily 5 from each chapter, but total of 25 from chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Some of you may have a lot of questions from chapter 1. Some may have an even distribution. Some may have a lot of questions from 4 and 5. Questions will be assigned randomly. Okay, at the end of the first half, we looked at managing constraints, which focuses on bottlenecks. How do we eliminate them? How do we make them more efficient? How can we work on solving bottleneck issues? We want to decrease inventory unless it's at a bottleneck. We want to increase throughput, ensure that we are moving as much product through our firm, as many services through our firm as is possible. Throughput increases operating revenue, which help us deal with bottleneck issues. We want to decrease operating expenses, focus on efficiency. We want to increase utilization. Are we using our employees to the best of their ability? Are we using our machinery to its maximum capacity? If we are not, we are inefficient. So this is a prime concern of ours. What are the 7 key principles guiding management constraints? What are the 5 practical steps to implementing those 7 principles? This is all information that we did cover in class over the course of the semester. If you have been following along and you review, you should have no problems. If, however, you were not participating, you will have a lot of work to do. This is a long, comprehensive exam. It is not an easy exam if you have not been staying up to date, because we will cover an immense amount of information. After the first semester, we move on to Chapter 6, Lean Systems. And this is where our intensity increases. For each of these 5 chapters, it will be 70, or 6 chapters, will be 75% of your questions. What we will do is approximately 50 points, approximately 60 points will be chapters 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And 10 points will be devoted to management's linear programming problems. Again, if you've been staying up to date, you should be okay. If you have fallen behind, this will be a very busy week for you. So lean systems are, we want to focus on efficiency. We want to focus on maximizing our ability to meet customer expectations while expending the least amount of resources possible. Some companies focus on this very intensely, like Aldi. Other companies don't focus on it, but everybody benefits from it. Okay, so focusing on intensity. Now, waste cripples. These are the different types of waste. How does each type of waste hurt operations? Each of them do. Why do they? There are several strategic characteristics of lean systems. Number 1 is close supplier ties. If we want to be lean, we need good relationships with our suppliers. The less inventory we have, the leaner we are. The leaner we are, the more efficient we are. The better we're able to meet customer expectations while expending fewer resources. We also have small lot sizes. As stated, we want to minimize inventory. If we're ordering small lot sizes, number 1, we have lesser inventory. Number 2, it's less capital expenditure while purchasing inventory. And number 3, it allows us to move inventory through the firm at a higher rate. After Chapter 6, we looked at Chapter 7, Managing Effective Projects. Number 1, what is a project? What do I mean by that? This information is critical. If we want to know about managing effective projects, then we need to know, A, what is a project? And of course, I mean, what is a project in a service, from a service operations perspective? Next, if we are managing effective projects, what are our steps to follow? What steps do we have to follow? A, we have to define the objective. Before we begin the project, we need to know the goals of the project. Without knowing those goals, we cannot effectively manage the project. Then we have to organize the team. There are 3 types of team manager. What are they? What are those types of team manager good at? We have 3 types of team members. What are they? What are those team members good at? We have to choose our organizational structure. We have functional organizational structures. We have pure project organizational structures. We have matrix, which is a combination of those 2. what are those structures good for? In general, why have we chosen that for each one? If you choose a functional project, why? What kind of projects is that good for? If you choose a pure project, why? What kind of projects is pure project good for? They're not good for the same type of projects. What about a matrix? When should that be chosen? This is all key information that you have to be aware of. We also spoke extensively about Xbox. In that situation, how is the Xbox 360 representative of an effective project? It was a very effective project. Why? How can we define success in that situation? Chapter 8 was focused on demand forecasting. It was focused on looking into the future and estimating demand. But we have different types of demand forecasting. We have passive demand forecasting, which is when we assume based on historical evidence. That is good in certain situations. What are they? We have active demand forecasting. Again, good in certain situations. What are they? What is active demand forecasting? Number 3, short-term demand forecasting. With short-term demand forecasting, what is it? What is it good for? Medium, similar situation. External and internal. What am I referring to here? What does that represent? External demand forecasting is what kind of situation? When is it applicable? Internal demand forecasting. When is that applicable? Not everything is good all the time. When do these situations apply? Okay. We have qualitative and quantitative demand types. When is qualitative demand forecasting useful? What about quantitative? When is that useful? What are the different techniques? Delphi, Salesforce, Market. What are those? We discussed it in class. All of that information could be important on your final exam. Trend prediction, barometric technique, economic forecasting technique. What do these expressions mean in service operations management? They were all covered in class. What are they? When are they useful? Demand management techniques. When we're trying to manage demand, we have several different things we can do. We can use complementary products, promotional pricing, pre-scheduled appointments, reservations, revenue management, backlogs, back orders, and stockouts. When are these different ideas useful? When are they effective for us? What industries use these? Different industries have different priorities. Different products have different priorities. What are they? Chapter 9 was inventory management. After we focused on demand, we looked at inventory management. In this situation, inventory management is focused on identifying how we minimize our inventory while still meeting customer demand. Why was Netflix particularly good at this in their previous incarnation? Why is inventory management critical? We talked about our water tank example. What was that? Why is that important? Why does it help us visualize inventory management techniques? We have small inventory concerns and advantages. We have large inventory concerns and advantages. If we have a small inventory, it affects firms in a different way. If we have a large inventory, it affects firms in different ways. How does it affect them? We have different types of inventory. We have operation, cycle, safety, anticipation, pipeline. In what industries do we see these in use? When are they used? When are they not used? What are they good for? What are their weaknesses? We looked at the EOQ, and this is just a very brief example. This will most likely not make any sense to you if you didn't complete a similar project, but there will be most likely theory-based EOQ problems. There will be no calculations. You will not need a calculator, but there will be some discussion about the EOQ. In that situation, how familiar are you with the EOQ system? Finally, Chapter 10, we looked at planning and scheduling operations. What does that mean? Why is that important in production operations management? Okay, why is that critically important to us? Level 1, we focus on big picture. Level 2, resource planning. Level 3, scheduling. Okay, all three of these situations involve different levels of the operation. What are they? When are they useful? When are they not? All of this information could appear on your final exam. Okay, during these first 10 chapters, chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 will be 25 questions. Chapters 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 will be 65 questions for a total of 90 questions. Then you'll have 10 remaining questions based on linear programming. Linear programming we spent the last couple weeks discussing. It is involved in optimal decision making, choosing not what you feel is correct, but what the math has shown us to be correct. There will be no problem solving here, but you may be asked to, or you will be asked to interpret questions. Same thing we've been doing in class the last couple weeks. We have to solve, we have to choose our decision variables, choose our objective function, choose our model constraints. I will share this PPT with you after, don't worry. But when you're presented with linear programming problems, number one, you have to observe and identify. Read the question carefully, choose what your possible what your possible decision variables might be. You have to define the problem. What is the objective function? Are you trying to minimize or maximize? What are you trying to minimize or maximize? If you are trying to minimize or maximize, how does that information relate to your objective function? These are key decisions we have to make. Finally, we have to construct the model with our constraints. What are the limitations governing our choices? How are we able to choose based on where we are being limited? For example, we'll cover this very briefly. We have a pizza problem here. We have to make 100 pizzas tomorrow. We can buy a large or small bag of ingredients. Those are our decision variables. How do we connect those to our objective function? We have to relate the price of the large bag and the small bag to the number of products we will buy. So in this situation, we have 5x1, $5 for a large bag, plus 4x2, $4 for a small bag, and we have to total that in the end. We also have to write our constraints. Our first constraint is we require 3 kilograms of pepperoni, 15 kilograms of pepperoni, and we have to relate that. So 3x1, 3 kilograms of pepperoni in a large bag, plus 1x2, 1 kilogram of pepperoni in a small bag, must be greater than or equal to 15. Again, this is all things we've covered in the last couple weeks. If you are learning it for the first time, it will be difficult. But there will be 10 questions related to this on your 10 points related to this on your final exam. Hopefully you have no questions. If you do, feel free to contact me. However, our exam is Monday. Do not contact me on Sunday. If you cannot prepare early, then you should not be expecting late help. I will upload this PPT to our Cacao group chat. I will also upload the relevant information about the exam, final exam information. This PPT that we've just covered is a guideline only. Anything I've talked about in the last while is relevant to be on the exam. This is a guideline only, helping you hopefully direct your studying if you choose to study. Thank you everyone for listening. If you have questions, please contact me before Sunday. Hopefully everybody's okay. Good luck on your exam. I will send the relevant links on Sunday night. Please log into your exam early on Monday.